Are we live? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adejobi-Adesola. I hope you can hear me. If anyone is here yet, could you please confirm that you can hear me through the comment section? If anyone is here with me yet, please confirm that you can hear me and you can see me live and direct. If you can hear me, please type it in the comment section. I'm live now. And today is the Ask Me Anything Day. So whatever you have, like I said to someone who asked me, she said, "Are you crazy? What if they ask you something that's too personal?" And then I said, of course, they will clarify. Anyways, I'm here now. If anyone is here with me yet, please let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. I believe that I'm live and most can see me. Okay, I can see your comment. Please give me a moment. Okay, so I can see that someone commented, but I'm not able to read your comment right now. So let's see. Please share and tell others that we're live. Let's talk about Canadian immigration. Please share, please call others, let them know that we're live right now. Can you please confirm that you can hear me? If you're here, can you please confirm that if you can hear me? Okay, so I'm going to start by introducing myself. I know that we have a few new connections. I've had a few connections since last week. So I'm going to start by introducing myself once again. My name is Adejobi-Adesola. I live in Alberta. I live in Western Canada, in the province of Alberta. And I have lived in Canada for, this is my almost 12 years now. It's counting. And I'm a Nigerian originally. I'm a dual citizen. I'm also a citizen of Canada. And I've been doing this since 2014. I originally trained as a lawyer in Nigeria. And so what I do typically as an immigration consultant is to help people who are interested in coming to Canada. So please let me know if you can hear me. If you cannot, please also type it in. Awesome. Thank you, Adeyemi Daniel Adebari. So my name is Adejobi-Adesola. So typically what I do as an immigration consultant is help people who are interested in coming to live in Canada. So I can help you with a study permit. I can help you with immigration, either as a professional or as a tradesperson or as a business person. I can also help you with citizenship if you're already inside Canada. I can help you with certain types of appeal, not all types, but I can help with some types of appeal if your visa is refused. And so if you have questions, please type. I'm going to be looking in the comment section. All right. Somebody is in Ghana. Okay, so let me clarify just before we go ahead that when I say ask me anything, please keep it to general questions, because one of the ethics of the profession is that you have to keep matters personal and confidential between you and your client. So you may, even though it's ask me anything that's generally related to visas and immigration. If it's a specific question that has to do with, that's too personal, I'm going to let you know and I will not answer that question so that we're not breaching confidentiality here. So that's the person in Ghana. that wants to travel to Canada, can you ask me about what is new? Ask me about the types of visas. Ask me about duration, processing as well. And but not anything that's too specific. So like I said, I'm going to start with what is new. What is new right now? Two dates are very important right now. September 7th and August 9th. So August 9th, what happened was that the government of Canada actually opened up opportunities for people to be able to travel to Canada again. If you recall, in 2020, when the pandemic broke out, what happened was that the government of Canada actually restricted travel. Not all of it was restricted, but international travel was very, very much restricted, and that made sense because you don't know what people are bringing in from other countries. So at that point, all travel was halted, and then if you're a citizen or a permanent resident, you can come into Canada, but international travel was largely affected. So even permanent residents are actually those who had received letters that they could actually come to land in Canada as permanent residents. Many of them could not even land. The restrictions affected them, but it's been lifted now. So anyways, August 9th, what happened on August 9th was that the government of Canada lifted the restriction on travel first for American citizens and green card holders in the United States, so that they could come into Canada, with the caveat that they must be fully vaccinated, and then they must also have a negative COVID-19 test result. So that was for American citizens and green card holders. And then starting September 7th, I'm going to talk about general and popular questions until I get individual questions from folks here. So right now, yes, I'm going to answer your question. I just saw a few questions. Yes, I'm going to answer your question. So the second thing is that September 7th, our borders will be open to everybody else, in addition to American citizens and green card holders. So starting from September 7th, next month, everybody else, Nigerians, Ghanaians, wherever you're from, as long as you have valid travel documents, you will be able to come into Canada, but you must also be fully vaccinated. When I say fully vaccinated, it means you must have evidence to show that you received all doses that you were supposed to receive. So it means if you were supposed to receive 3 doses, you had all doses, and you have a document to show that you've been vaccinated and you've received all doses. Also, you must have a negative COVID-19 test result, okay, showing that you are not carrying the virus. So you will have those along with your travel documents. And so starting from September 7th, our borders will be open to everybody else in the world. So those are the two things that are, the latest right now in Canadian immigration. So I see that I have questions from, is it possible to immigrate without the IELTS test? No. The answer to that is no. Right away, I'm going to say no. The only thing that's possible to do right now without the IELTS test is to come to study in Canada, because not all programs require you to have a language test result. Some programs in Canada, some colleges and universities, actually, yes, some colleges and universities only require you to show that you attended college you attended at least high school or a college or university where English was the official language of instruction. That is for schooling in Canada. So you can get away with not having an IELTS test result if you are coming to school in Canada. But outside of that, if you are coming for immigration, it is compulsory. You must have an IELTS test result to show that you have a good command of either English or French. So the answer to your question is no. but you can still get away with not writing an IELTS test result for study in Canada if you can show that you have at least a GCE or high school results with English language where you passed English language, and you can prove that in the country you're from, the official language in that country is either English or French, and the language of instruction in all schools that you attended is English or French. You can still do that with education, but not for immigration. So I hope I answered your question. Adewale Adeshino, thank you for that question. Let's see, somebody else has a question. For temporary work permit, can I help you to get a job for temporary work permit for healthcare assistant? Okay, so I'm going to say this now. My roles as an immigration consultant do not extend to being a recruiter. So what I'll recommend if you are looking for work is to go online and look for resources where you can find recruiters or employment agencies that employ abroad, that can employ people from abroad. Or if you, yes, that's the best way to go for somebody who is looking for work. And then when you find work, the temporary work permit is actually processed with the employer. The employer has to work with the immigration consultant as well as you, but you don't make the payment. It is your employer who does the processing of a work permit for you. So the best thing is to look for a recruiter, look for an employment agency, and see if they can assist you with finding a job in Canada. And thereafter, that is when the immigration consultant comes in. There are immigration consultants who also work as recruiters. I haven't added that to my profile yet, maybe in the nearest future, in the foreseeable future. But for now, my work is right now is as an immigration consultant. But if you are looking for work, look for recruiters and employment agencies in Canada and see if you can find opportunities. Let them know that you're from abroad and you're looking for work abroad. Or ask them if they can connect you with agencies that typically employ people in that industry from abroad. I hope that helps a little bit. Awesome. Okay, so the kind of visas that are available to Canada right now, you know, when we talk about visas to Canada, it could be temporary residency or permanent residency. So visas like study permits, visitors, temporary foreign workers, all of that fall under temporary residency. But if you are coming to Canada as a permanent resident, it's like having a green card. That's what the US calls it, the green card. In Canada, we call it permanent residency. And you can come in either as a professional, you can come in as a business person. Those will grant you permanent resident visa immediately. So when we're talking about like coming, I'm sure you've all heard about the Express Entry. The Express Entry program is one of the permanent resident programs that we have for skilled tradespersons and for professionals, where you can actually apply for permanent residency from the get-go. So anything that's not permanent residency would fall under temporary resident visas, and that would be you're coming to study in Canada, you're coming to work here temporarily on a work permit, or you are the spouse of somebody who has a temporary visa, or you're coming here for a vacation in Canada. And that brings to mind actually I'm going to just talk about that now. For over 2 years, people were not able to obtain tourist visas to Canada. Like I said before, starting in September 7th, it will be open once again for people who want to come on vacation to Canada to be able to apply to come for vacation in Canada once again. So I hope that helps you to understand a temporary visa allows you to live in Canada permanently. A temporary visa allows you to visit Canada for a specific period and for a specific purpose, which means you're coming to Canada to study or you're coming to visit, either visit friends or visit relatives or on vacation. And a permanent resident visa allows you to live here permanently. you can get that right away as long as you meet the eligibility criteria. And that would be either you're a professional, some business visas, like there's some business visas allow you permanent residency right away. Some expect you to set up your business first and then meet some compliance requirements before you can get your permanent residency. And then in most instances anyways, the express entry is the one that's most popular for permanent residency. So any other questions? Okay. So a working permit visa, you want to know the difference between an immigration visa and a work permit visa. It's just that a work permit visa gives you permission to work in Canada for a specific period of time, and an immigration visa allows you to live here permanently. That is just what I explained before I read your question, when the other person was asking about visas available. So that's it. Immigration allows you to live here permanently. You may live here permanently if you're on an immigration visa, but if you are on a work permit, you're only allowed to work here temporarily for a few months or maybe a year, a number of years. But just so you know, when people are here on work permits, it's always easy for them to apply for permanent residency. Once you're here or you've been inside Canada on a temporary visa, it's very easy for you to be able to live in Canada as a permanent resident, because there are pathways for people who have worked in Canada before, who have had a work history in Canada. There are pathways for them to be able to stay back as permanent residents. So typically what people need, what do you need to start processing visas? Well, to start processing visas, what you typically will need is all the documents that are necessary and required for the type of visa you're applying for. And that would vary depending on the type of visa you're applying for. It's not always the same. If you're applying for a study permit, the documents you need to submit will be different. If you're applying for permanent residency, the processing is a bit different. The requirements are a bit different. So basically what you would need in that instance is there will be a checklist provided to you by an immigration professional or by the government of Canada if you are doing it yourself, and you would see what the requirements are, and the documents are typically always different for different types of visas. Okay, so you're probably just joining us, Henry. Yes, have they started issuing temporary and tourist visas? Not yet. Depends on the country you're from. I can see that you have a Nigerian name, so I will assume, I may be wrong, but I'm going to assume that you're asking this question from Nigeria. If you're in Nigeria, you may not apply for tourist visas. Well, even if you apply now, September 7th is the earliest that you can come into Canada as a non-US citizen. So as from September 7th, next month, tourist visas, folks who have tourist visas can actually land in Canada. If you don't have one yet, you can apply, but it's not likely you'll be able to get it by the 7th. But those who already have tourist visas or study permits can land in Canada as from September 7th. But anybody else, other people those who are US citizens and green card holders, can actually start coming into Canada for tourism right away. But if you are from Nigeria or from other countries outside the US, you have to wait until September 7th. You're welcome, Amechi Henry. Any other questions? Yes, I can see from the name that you have an Igbo name, Amechi Henry. Okay, so I'm going to just what I'm going to do while I wait for more questions, I'm going to treat some very, very popular questions that people ask. So a lot of people want to know if they can sponsor their spouses or children to Canada if they are studying here. That's a popular question that I get from people who want to come to Canada as students. They want to know whether it's possible for them to bring their spouses or bring their children to Canada as students. So the answer to that is yes. You're able to do that. So it's not sponsorship per se. They will also be temporary residents, just like the student. So if a student is coming to Canada to study, typically I get people saying that they get refused, their spouses get refused. And in most instances, that may be because the spouse who is coming into Canada is coming for a short course, maybe for 1 year. And they want to bring, and typically a 1 year course is 8 months. And they want to bring their spouse to join them for that 1 year. In many instances, they get refused. So the tip is that if a student is coming to Canada and they want to bring their spouses, it may not likely work for people who are coming to do short courses. It may work for those who are coming to do longer programs. A 3-year program, a 4-year program, it's justifiable to bring your spouse and your kid if your program of study in Canada is longer than 1 year. So yes, it's possible, but it's going to eat money, like they say in Nigeria, because if you are coming to study, you must be able to show that you can support yourself financially, as well as be able to support any family member who is coming to Canada with you. So what you will get will be, the student will typically get their student visa, and the spouse who wants to come with them will get a visa too, and that is the visa that is typically, that visa is a work permit and a temporary resident visa, where the spouse of that person can come into Canada based on the fact that their spouse is here as a student. And so they can come into Canada and work for any employer. So like I said, typically folks who are coming in for 1 year programs typically get refused, because most of the time it's not justifiable. If you are going back after 8 months, why do you want to bring your spouse with you? You can, well, for many reasons, those who are refused are typically folks with short visas. But if the visa is longer, yes, it's possible to bring a spouse and a child or children into Canada, even as a student, but you must be able to show proof of support, that you can support them financially while they're here, as well as provide for yourself as a student while you're here. So any other questions? So somebody said you texted me on Gmail, but you didn't get a response. I'm not sure why you didn't get a response. Okay, you've been calling my line. Okay, Mr. Adekoya, I think I saw your message this morning as well. I'll respond to your message today. It's been a very busy week. I'll respond to your message today unfailingly. Sorry about that. And then Isaac Bushnell, how long does visitor visas take to be issued? Because I was told Canada visit visas takes 1 year to be issued now. Okay, so to that, it depends on where you're applying from. And it's very easy, if you're familiar with the website of the Government of Canada, it's very easy to actually check the status of your application. It's also very easy to know how long it's taken from the country you're applying from. So I have to say, it's not uniform across board, because it depends on the country you're applying from and the requirements. It's typically, but I'll give you a range. And things may be a bit difficult and longer now because of the pandemic. I'm sure you would have seen, if you visited the IRCC website too, you would have seen that they will tell you that they have a lot of delays owing to the pandemic. So if you, what you should do is just expect that it will be anything between, for visitors visa, anything between, on a good day, if there are no issues, anything from 4 months to 6 months, all things being equal. So you don't want to start applying for a tourist visa a month before travel. Typically, at least start 6 months before. Before the pandemic, visitor visas would typically take about 4 months to 6 months. But also, like I said, that is dependent on the country you're applying from. So if you're applying from, I think it depends. I think that's the best way to put it. It depends on the country you're applying from, but expect delays now, because I'm sure that because the restrictions have just been lifted, there will be a lot of people putting in applications. I don't know. They may be able to. I don't know how fast they may be able to work on it, but it varies from country to country. That's what you need to bear in mind. So if it's taking 1 year now, it's possible. You may actually be very right that it's taking 1 year, but like I said, it depends on the country you're applying from. I hope I answered your question, Isaac Bushnell. It depends on the country. So expect delays because of the pandemic. Also maybe expect a bit of a delay because of more people applying now that restrictions have been lifted. But typically, it shouldn't be even not be up to a year for visitor visas. But at the most, expect it to be at least 6 months. So let's talk about something else. How can I help a family member? Okay, so I'm going to answer a few more popular questions that people typically ask me. If I'm inside Canada, can I extend my stay? That's a question that people typically ask. That if they're inside Canada, is it possible to extend their stay at all? Is it possible to stay back? So the answer to that is yes and no. The reason why it may be no is that if a person is in Canada and you're already out of status, or you already have a deportation order, or it's something negative regarding your visit here, it may not be easy to extend your status. But if you're in Canada and you're still in status, depending on what you're looking to do, why you want to stay back, yes, you may be able to extend your visit. As a matter of fact, last year, I believe August of last year, the government of Canada opened up opportunities for people who are here as visitors to apply for work permits and be able to work while they're here. And that's because of the pandemic. So folks who were on visitor visas were able to apply to stay back in Canada and work as temporary workers because of the pandemic and the fact that Canada needed workers, and there were travel restrictions. They couldn't bring in people from outside Canada at the point when the pandemic was just raging. So folks who were already in Canada on visitor visas were given the opportunity to apply for visas to stay in Canada. So yes, you can stay back in Canada depending on the type of visa. Those who cannot extend their stay or look for opportunities to stay back are folks whose visas, who are already out of status, their visas have expired, they didn't restore their status. And that's another thing. If your visa is almost expiring and you have a valid reason to stay back in Canada, by all means, talk to a professional. If your reason is valid, you can extend your stay here. But do not wait until the visa expires before you leave. Because at the end, for you to restore, extension and restoration are different things. If you are here in Canada already and your visa has not expired, you can actually extend your stay. If you have valid reason, work with a professional. They can assist you to extend your stay for valid reasons. Now, if your visa has already expired, there are also valid reasons. And then within reasonable time, I believe it's 30 days, you may actually still be able to ask for restoration. But if you do not meet that qualification anymore, you've got to leave and apply from outside Canada to come in at all. So it's possible to extend your stay inside Canada. Any other questions? Can you all see me? Can you see me? I'm getting some information here about to check something in my settings. Okay. All right. I keep getting something about my settings. Okay, so yes, I will send it to you. Sure. Yes, I've noted it. I'll send it to you after this. So if there are any more questions, okay. So I'll talk a little bit more about other things while if there are no questions for now. A few more questions that people ask. A few more popular questions. Let's think of, or let me talk a little bit more about services that I offer. So, like I said, I offer study permits, and for study permits, you must, if you're looking to come to Canada as a student, you must be able to show proof of funds. So here, you must be able to show that you can take care of yourself financially. You must be able to show that you can pay your fees. Remember too that if you are coming to Canada as a student, there are scholarship opportunities available. And that's something to look into, especially owing to the pandemic has affected a lot of people economically in a very drastic fashion. So if you are coming to Canada as a student, these days, it might be better to look for scholarship opportunities and see if you can find scholarships. Now, you'll see that some colleges and universities will say that there are currently no scholarships available for international students, but that when you are inside already as a student, then look for opportunities that are available to students of that college or university. That's one way to do it. So for those who can pay their first year tuition, because in Canada, for study permits, if your program is 4 years, you are not expected to pay for the 4 years at once. You can pay for the first year and then at least show that you have resources to pay for the rest of your education. But the requirement is that you show proof of payment of the first year, even if it's a 4-year program. So for those who can afford the first year tuition, it's always best to pay that off and then look for scholarships when you get into the university and into Canada. And then, that relieves you a little bit of the burden of the tuition. Because and then tuition costs you have to, depending on the college you're going, it varies across Canada. That's another question that I get. When people call and ask for study permits, they want to know, how much is it going to cost me to attend college in Canada? The fact is that it varies across board as well. It depends on the college, it depends on the program, and then most importantly, it depends on the province. So the western provinces, which would be Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, a little bit, some people say BC is part of the western, but anyways, those four, tuition is typically very high in those 4 provinces. Alberta is considered the oil and gas province. People here, standard of living is a bit high, and it looks as if the mentality is that people in Alberta have a lot of money. So tuition is generally high in Alberta. Tuition is high in Toronto as well, because Toronto is a popular destination. And you know that when there is demand, prices typically, actually go up. So Toronto is high. BC, it varies across board depending on what part of BC you are going to school in. I mean British Columbia. And then Manitoba is relatively cheap. Saskatchewan is relatively cheap. Alberta is a little bit high, but it also depends on the program, and it depends on the area you're going to in Alberta, but it's typically high. But so the tip is, if you're coming to college or university in Canada, make sure at least that you can pay the first year tuition, and then the rest of the program you can look for tuition while you are inside Canada already as a student. Now, if you are very interested in coming to Canada as a student, but tuition is a bit of a problem, then the best thing to do is find scholarships that are available to international students. It's a lot of work. it might take a lot of time to eventually get one, but it's possible to get scholarships that are available for people who want to come into Canada as international students. So that's something that you can bear in mind. You have to work on it from the get-go. Work on it to be able to find programs that are available for people in who are outside Canada. So that's one aspect of for study permits. For professionals looking to come into Canada, someone already asked about IELTS. The other thing is you must also have proof of your education. So aside from the IELTS, you want to be looking at information regarding your credentials. You must be able to show proof that you have at least a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD that's equivalent to a Canadian PhD, and you must be able to show proof of that by having your credentials tested, your credentials looked at in Canada, and then there are designated organizations that the government of Canada has designated to accredit and look at credentials from outside Canada, and then once they look at it, they will determine whether your credentials are equal to a Canadian or equivalent to a Canadian bachelor's degree or a master's degree. And once you have that along with your IELTS, you are typically good to go to make an application for permanent residency as a professional, but it also requires funds. So that takes us to another. Please share and let folks know that we're on. If they have questions, they can bring their questions as well. So questions: I'm already with a national passport, willing to work in Canada. Will you sponsor me for a visa? No, you have to look for an employer to help you with a work visa. I am not able to sponsor you for a work visa. But if you look for recruiters, make sure the recruiters are genuine. Look for employment agencies, and also if they can find you a job, it is the employer who sponsors you for a job. So I am an immigration consultant. I do not sponsor people for jobs. I will not be able to help you with a job to sponsor you for work in Canada. So the other thing you want to bear in mind is that you typically should not be, you can pay recruiters, employers should not be charging you. We've been seeing that happening a lot. Employers should not be charging you for employment. You have to remember that if the government of Canada discovers that an employer is charging you money to employ you in Canada, both you and the employer will get fined, and you will not be able to come into Canada. That employer too will be fined, and they will be restricted and prohibited from ever bringing people into Canada. It goes on a lot under the table, but you have to be very careful. So when you're working with recruiters who work with international employees or prospects, the ones that are employment agencies that know their onions and are ethical would let you know how it works. So unfortunately, that person who asked that question, I'm not able to sponsor you for a work visa in Canada, but please look for employers who can sponsor you. Go online. If you stay with me on this page, I'll post a few employment agencies that employ people from outside Canada, and then you can look out for information from me, from my end. But for now, those that are operative and working and can help you with international recruitment, I'll post them on here. Whenever I'm able to do that for you, I'll also let you know. But for now, those who can do that, I'll post it in a subsequent post so that you can start working with them right away. But remember, like I said, employers should not be charging you any fees to employ you in Canada. Samson, did you have a question? Samson again, you said yes. Okay, were you okay, awesome. You were answering my question. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, if there are none, I'll talk about other issues, other questions that we typically take. So questions that people ask is that if I was deported, this is a typical question too. If I was deported from Canada, is it ever possible to come into Canada again? Yes. So a deportation, it depends on the type of deportation. And it depends on whether you left voluntarily or whether you were actually taken out of Canada forcefully. So the advice is always that there are many types of deportation. Some, you will see it in folks who are deported from Canada will typically see it in the letter. The letter would either tell them that you are never able to, and that would be for the gravest of offenses, and that would tell you that you are not able to come to Canada ever again. And then some types of deportation will tell you, you know what, you can call we're going to restrict you from coming into Canada for a number of years. Maybe sometimes for misrepresentation. When people lie on an application and it is discovered that it was a lie, and the lie was a material fact that could affect the decision of the visa officer, they will typically get a letter called it's a misrepresentation letter, and that letter would actually say that you are banned from coming into Canada for another 5 years. So that is not fatal. After 5 years, if a person is now ready to, tell the truth on their application, they're able to apply to come to Canada again. But for those, some are banned permanently and they're told you can never apply for application to Canada again. It depends on whatever the offense was. Some are inside Canada and they overstayed and they're asked to leave. And sometimes their letter could say that they're banned for a year or from 2 years from ever coming into Canada. So I think the ideal thing is, once a person gets a letter saying you have to leave Canada immediately, the best thing is to leave immediately, because that is the only way you can apply officially again without going through all the underground work of I need to change my identity. In fact, it was back in the day that people could change identity. Now in this world of biometrics, I don't see how people can even change their identity anymore to come into Canada. So the best thing is, if you've been asked to leave Canada for any reason at all, it is best to leave right away, because that actually gives you the opportunity to apply. It's like punishment. Once you've observed your punishment, you will be forgiven and you can always come back in. But if you've been banned, for instance, deported from Canada, and you've been told, to leave within 30 days or leave within 90 days, and you're still here, and they find you somewhere working 2 years after, and they bundle you out of Canada, just know that that's the end. It may not be easy for you to come back again. So the best thing is always obey a deportation order. And as a matter of fact, it doesn't even have to get to a deportation order if a person knows what they're doing and they're able to, either if you're out of stay, look for how to extend your stay. If your visa is almost expiring, look for opportunities to extend it. If you're here on a temporary visa and you want to stay back, talk to professionals and ask for how you can stay back on a temporary visa. That is always better than running and hiding, doing hide and seek to stay in Canada. Then another question that I get is, do you have an agent? That is a very, very popular question. No, I do not have an agent right now. So please, no one is my representative anywhere in Nigeria, in Canada. I do not have any representatives anywhere. So do not pay money to anybody claiming to represent me. I work from Canada directly with clients. That's another a very common question that I get from people. Whether do you have an agent? No, I do not. I'm emphasizing that again, that I have no agent. I have no company in Nigeria. I have no branches anywhere. If that is going to happen, I'm going to let everybody know. You will see me there. and if you're in Nigeria, if you're in Ghana, if I'm going to have an office there, you see me there and meet me there and know that this is my office. I'll make it loud and everybody will know that. So I have no agent, I have no branch anywhere. I work from Canada myself now, by myself. So please bear that in mind. That's another common question. Yes, I'll send my email address in a minute. Okay, I see a lot of, I'm going to read that question. I see a lot of job offers in my area of specialty, logistics and supply chain in Canada, but you get stuck when the question of whether you are legally qualified to work in Canada comes up, and that's a major challenge. Okay, so the first thing you want to address is this. For folks who have, I typically, before you start looking for work in Canada, it would depend on your age. It would also depend on your, Meshach Baba, I will attend to your question in a little bit. I just saw your question, and thank you for being a loyal follower. I know you've been following me for years. I remember your name, because I remember it from Meshach and Abednego in the Bible. Thank you for following. I'll answer your question in a bit. So this, if you have work experience, and you've been, and you're maybe in your early 40s, the best thing to do is to look for permanent residency first before you start looking for a job. The only reason you should be looking for a job in Canada, for starters, is if you do not meet permanent residency criteria. So the first thing you want to be looking at is, have I tried to apply for permanent residency? Because Canada does have permanent residency opportunities for you, even without a job offer. That's why I talked about express entry. So there are folks who will meet the qualification for permanent residency without a job offer. Now, if you do not qualify without a job offer, then you can be looking for work. So like I said before, I'm still going to repeat the same thing. If they keep saying that you work abroad and you don't have Canadian experience, or you are stuck because you are not qualified to work in Canada, you are working with the wrong, you are probably applying directly to jobs. And of course, employers don't stress themselves with that, unless it's an employer that is looking in particular for international employees. Other than that, most employers in Canada are looking to employ Canadians, and that's the law. As a matter of fact, to bring in an employee that is not a Canadian, you have to show, employers here have to show that they have looked for Canadians and they couldn't find a Canadian. That's what they call the labor market impact assessment. So even for employees who are coming from outside Canada, employers must show that they looked for a Canadian, they couldn't find a Canadian, and so they're looking to employ somebody from abroad. Now, if you keep getting you are not qualified to work in Canada, it means that you're applying to the wrong places, and it means that you're not working with an international recruiter. There are particular recruiters online. Do that Google search. I'm not able to help you for now. When I'm able to, if you're still with me here, I'll let you know. But there are those who typically, all they do is international recruitment. And so you'll be working with a recruiter who already knows the employers who are looking for international employees. So if your area of work is in high demand in Canada, and employers here have looked for Canadians and they couldn't find Canadians, then it's very possible to find a Canadian employer to employ you. If your area of work is not in high demand in Canada, you may not actually find any employer to employ you, because they know that they can find Canadians to do the job. The only way you can escape a labor market impact assessment is if you qualify under the express entry program, and you qualify under a provincial nomination program that does not require a job offer. Then you'll be able to apply. So if you're interested in looking at those opportunities, you can get in touch with me offline, and I can do an assessment, and I'll let you know if you qualify for any of the programs. Other than that, if you do not, you may need to work with an international recruiter who is recruiting from abroad. They already know employers in Canada who will take you on as an international employee. And Meshach Baba was asking about study permits. What do you need for study permits? was your question. So for study permits, basically what you need to be able to show that you can pay your tuition, proof of funds. And you actually need to have paid for 1 year. It is the receipt of your tuition as well as your proof of funds to be able to support yourself for at least 1 year that you will take to the Canadian High Commission to apply for a study permit, as well as your acceptance letter from the school you've applied to. So take note of that. You've got to be accepted into a university or college in Canada for starters. And once you're accepted, you pay your tuition. So your acceptance letter is important. The school you're applying to must be a school that Canada recognizes as a designated learning institution, which means that Canada approves them to bring in international students. So once you have it, if you have your acceptance letter, you have paid for 1 year and you have your receipt, and then you have proof of support, that you can support yourself for at least 1 year if it's just you without family. That is basically all it takes. But even though those are the documents you need to produce, don't forget that the visa officer is looking for other things. Looking at your general profile. Is this person likely to go back home? What is their current situation where they're coming from? Is he employed? Does he have a job to go back to? Does he have ties, family ties, economic ties? What are the ties that they have wherever they're coming from? So those ties are very important too. If you have a good job and you're just coming to Canada to study, it's very likely that the visa officer would give you a visa, knowing that you have something important back home or where you're coming from that you would like to go back to and not just leave it. So the ties are very important apart from the documents you submit. Your general profile, your economic, your economic background, your professional background will go a long way to assist when you apply for a visa. So it's not just those documents, but basically the documents that are required are you need your acceptance letter, you need your proof of tuition, and then you also need proof of support that you can support yourself. So that was your question, Meshach. I hope that helps a little. I just answered your question, Meshach. I hope that helps a little bit. So the person in Ghana who really wants to travel, what type of, what have you applied? I don't want to ask personal questions, but I think it's best to contact me afterwards. The person in Ghana who really wants to travel to Canada, please get in touch after offline so that we can talk a bit more about what is going on in Ghana. So you will see there are lots of job offers, but the thing, I just read a comment there. The problem with like I said, companies here, employers here must show that they've tried to employ a Canadian and they were not able to employ a Canadian. They have to show that. So if they're unable to show that, they cannot employ you. It's called a labor market impact assessment. They have to actually go through that process, and the government of Canada must see proof that they tried to employ a Canadian, it was not possible, and so now they have to employ from abroad. So that's a problem that you may get when you apply, when you look for employers here who tell you, sorry, you are not qualified to work here. If your job is in high demand, they probably will take you. Another question that I get is the proof of funds. Whether is it possible to apply to come here without proof of funds? It's not possible to come to Canada without proof of funds. The only category that does not require proof of funds is if you are coming on a work permit. The work permit allows you to start working in Canada right away. So you are going to start earning an income right away. There is solid proof that you will not recourse to funds. You will be working in Canada right away on a work permit. So you are not required to show proof when you're coming to Canada on a temporary foreign work permit. if you are coming to Canada as a permanent resident of Canada without a job offer, you must show proof of funds that when you get into Canada, while you're looking for money that you can support yourself with, and so proof of funds, you must be able to show that in your application for permanent residency in Canada. So you are not able to, we get that question a lot, am I able to come to Canada as a permanent resident without proof of funds? So the answer to that is no. The only thing is, it varies depending on the number of people in your family. So if your family members are, the government of Canada already has a table where it is listed. If it's one person, it's a particular amount. If it's two people, it's a particular amount, and you must be able to show it in an account when you apply for permanent residency. Any further questions? Okay. Meshach, I hope you were with me. You heard my answer that you must be able to show proof of funds. I thought you left. You must be able to show proof of funds that you can pay you can take care of yourself for at least 1 year. You must be able to show that you've paid your first year tuition, and then you must be able to also show that you have some ties back where you're coming. Since that question is from Meshach, I believe you're in Nigeria, so you must be able to show that you have at least a very good job in Nigeria. So if you're like I said, if you're a professional, always look at permanent residency as the first option before looking at study permits. If you are stuck and there is no way out for study permits, then you can always look at if there's no way out for permanent residency, then you can look for study permits as an option, because you can stay back in Canada if you have schooled in Canada and worked in Canada for a little bit. The pathways keep opening up for you to be able to stay back. So that's one thing to look at. Amade Kapama. Okay. Meshach, all right, please get in touch offline if you have specific questions. Amade Kapama, you're welcome. Do you know international employers that will help some of us that are willing to travel without any degree, but qualified for jobs by our natural abilities? Okay, that's a long one. So this person is asking, you're asking to see whether there are employers that will take you on without the certificates and big degrees, but natural abilities. You know, when you say you have natural abilities, you know, it's your word against the employer's word. You must prove your abilities through a certificate somehow. There are low-skilled jobs, but you still need a certificate to prove that you can do those jobs. So when I say low-skilled jobs, the professions are classified into categories in Canada. I wouldn't even call them low-skilled. I'll call them semi-skilled. So you have the semi-skilled categories. You have the highly skilled categories. So there are opportunities for people who are, for instance, they call them, in fact, we call them tradespersons. They used to be called semi-skilled before. Canada calls them tradespersons now. Semi-skilled seems to be saying that their skills are not up to par. But it's more like the skilled trades, not like the professionals and the white shirt. The blue shirt, the people who work in, maybe the plumbers, people who work with automotives, people who work with, people who are chefs, people who are plumbers, people who are mechanics, people who are, they are tradespersons, they're skilled tradespersons. I know for a fact, being originally from Nigeria, I know that when I lived in Nigeria, I had a mechanic that worked on my vehicle. I don't think he can show any certificate that this is my certificate, this is the college I went to, but he does what you need him to do on your vehicle. Can that type of person come to Canada? It's no, because he has no certificate to show. His abilities are there. I can vouch for him that this guy can fix anything fixable in any vehicle. But if he cannot show me that this is the college he went and the certificate he attended, or if the government of Canada will not accept them to come into Canada. So your natural abilities are actually good as far as your clients. For immigration purposes, you must be able to show that you have a certificate. This is where I learned the trade. This is how long I've learned the trade, because Canada wants to know how long you've been working in that profession. Canada wants to know who taught you, where you attended school, and what the program, the certificate is. You know, it's like going into a courtroom without evidence. You can't just walk into a courtroom and tell a judge that, you know, this is, I didn't do what you said. Okay, sure, or this person did that. They will ask you, what is your evidence, right? So your certificate is more like your evidence. You know, the natural abilities will work well with your clients who already know you've done the job for them. But applying for Canadian immigration, you've got to show that you have a degree, or it's not a high degree, but you've got to be able to show, even if it's a one-year college in a village somewhere, show that you attended, you got that skill from somewhere, you learned that job somewhere. And then even employers need to see that, apart from immigration. And even if you are looking for work as a skilled tradesperson, as a plumber, as a chef in Canada, you still need a certificate to show it. And that is a little bit, getting work in those fields is a little bit tough from abroad. The best you can do is try to find a way to get your accreditation here, that what you did in whether in Nigeria, in Ghana, wherever you did it, get some accreditation to show that what you learned is equivalent to, if you were a plumber, be able to show that you have a degree, a certificate that makes your plumbing certification equal to a plumber in Canada. That's the starting point. Then you can talk to a professional to see how best to go, either to go to work with an employer, or to come in based on that certificate, that it's equivalent to a Canadian plumber certificate. So your natural abilities won't take you far. You need to be able to show through a document that you learned a trade. Even if it's not, you're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor, if you're a plumber, a mechanic, a baker, a chef, just be able to show through your documents that you learned a trade somewhere. So my answer to that question, you were asking, do I know international employers that will employ you based on your natural abilities? So the answer to that is no. I don't know any international employers that will do that. You've got to be able to show through your certificate and work experience that you learned a trade somewhere and you are certified to do that trade. Certification is very important in Canada. Very, very important. Certificates, that's the proof of what you learned. So that's very important. Amanze Emeka Dominic, is there any employer that can sponsor you to Canada and you pay back when you start working in Canada? I doubt if there are employers that can do that for you. I doubt it very much if there are any employers that can employ you in Canada and then you pay them when you get here. No employers will do that. Employers are not even supposed to charge you to employ you here. So that question is a no. It's a no without going into too many stories. It's a no. Employers do not charge you to employ you to come work here. If you qualify for a job, the recruiters work with the employer. Or if the employer wants to work with you directly, if they actually talk to you directly, interview you directly, they do not charge you a fee. The law in Canada does not permit them to charge you a fee to bring you here. If anybody is offering to do that and say when you get here you can pay, it's illegal to do that. So please don't do that with anyone. Okay. Other types of questions that we typically get. Some types of questions that we get sometimes would be, can Can you stay back in Canada after studies? Yes, you can stay back in Canada after studies if you meet the criteria. You attended a designated learning institution, and the program, you also need to know not all programs qualify for the staying back in Canada after college. So you need to ask, you need to do your research and ask the designated learning institutes that this program that I'm running here, will I be able to stay back in Canada after studies and work on a work permit? Not all programs permit you to work and stay back in Canada. So you must be able to confirm that from the college before you apply. And then, how are you able to stay back after your work permit? What qualifies you to stay back? So typically, if the college you attended, if the program is one that qualifies you to stay back in Canada, you must, what you do is you must be able to find a job after your graduation. You must be able to find a job, and then you will obtain what is called a postgraduate work permit. And the postgraduate work permit allows you to stay in Canada for 1 year. Yeah, it allows you to, if the program you did in Canada is for 1 year, the postgraduate work permit allows you to stay for 1 year. If the program in Canada that you did in Canada is for 2 years, the postgraduate work permit allows you to stay in Canada for 2 years. And if the program you did in Canada is for 3 years, the postgraduate work permit allows you to stay in Canada for 3 years. So what that does is that it allows you to gain international work experience, so that even if you want to go back to your country of origin, the experience you've gained in Canada on a postgraduate work permit will actually make you very sellable and marketable when you get back to your country of origin. If you do not want to go back to your country of origin, the postgraduate work permit is also a pathway that allows you to stay back in Canada. So you can actually apply for permanent residency after working for 1 year on your postgraduate work permit. So that is an option. For folks who do not qualify right away for permanent residency, you can actually qualify for permanent residency after coming into Canada as a student, working on a postgraduate work permit. You can actually stay back and work and apply for permanent residency. So there are many pathways for people to stay back in Canada. There's no need to do anything the illegal way. There are many pathways. You just need to ask, and you know what they are. Once you can get in. So the emphasis now, like I said, the pandemic has affected so many people. So many people who had plans to either come into Canada, had saved funds to come into Canada. The pandemic has really, really disrupted a lot. So much so that many people don't even have any savings on hand to come into Canada anymore. The best thing to do under these circumstances, like I said, invest some time in looking for scholarships. Invest some time in looking for scholarships that are applicable to folks who are applying from outside Canada. You may actually have to apply to more than one. Some have applied to 20 places, and eventually they will find one that will work for them. Once you have a scholarship, then you may be able to apply for a visa to come to Canada. And remember that once you're in Canada, you can work while you're a student. That's another question that people often ask. If I'm in Canada on a study permit, am I able to work? Yes, unless there's a restriction for any reason, and that reason must be very strange. In most instances, students in Canada will also have a work permit that allows them to work for any employer while studying. They can work for 20 hours while school is in session, and they can work full-time for 40 hours when school is out of session. So that is one way to actually get some money while a student is here in Canada. One way to get some money. And also, another thing that I want to point out, scholarships are gaining popularity, and a lot more people are applying for scholarships. The one thing to also note regarding scholarships is that not every scholarship allows you to stay back in Canada. The government of Canada actually restricts some people from staying back in Canada for certain types of scholarships based on the type of scholarship you obtained. Some scholarship opportunities expect you, after paying for you to go to school abroad, they expect you to come back and make use of the learning and the international exposure you've gotten. They expect you to come back to the country that sponsored you, to come and be of a good citizen and make use of the international education. So not all scholarships permit you to stay back in Canada. If all you're looking to do is to get a scholarship and go back home, it's all fine and good. If you're looking to stay back in Canada through a scholarship, you need to do your research well and be sure that there are no restrictions on the type of scholarship that you're using. So I'll take one more question and then we can close. Okay, so Amidika, the best thing to do for you is, in your case, like I said, is you need to be able to find a whatever certificate you got, whether it's for a skilled trades or something. You can get in touch and we'll guide you. There are ways to go about it. You've got to be able to show that you have a certificate and not just your natural abilities. Hello, ma'am. Miss Olushola Owolabi. Okay, I'll check your message on Instagram. Thank you for joining us. If you have any general question, not specific, if you have any okay, I think I remember. If you have a general question, please ask. If it's specific to an application that you've already made, please let that be something we discuss in confidence. I'm talking to Yetunde Owolabi. Let's talk later. If it's a specific if you already have an application in place. But if you have general questions, please feel free to ask. Anything else should be confidential and discussed in private. But I'll check out the message on Instagram. Thank you for joining us. So, Amadika, the question you asked about security domain, knowing that the person is a trained system with certificates and working experience. You know, like I said before, Canada has occupational categories. So whatever you're doing, you've got to fall into a particular occupational category, and then one can tell you where what works for you. But like I said, your initial question is that if you don't have a certificate to show, are you able to come to Canada just based on your natural abilities? You do need to show work experience. You do need to show your certificate. And if you have any specific things that you are unable to, so it's not that. So you can come to Canada under any occupational category, whether you are a security person, whether you have a certificate. Get in touch with a professional. They will do a general assessment and they will tell you what your occupational category is and tell you what your certificate can do for you. Some certificates are not equivalent to Canadian certificates, and the organizations that Canada has Canada has to do your accreditation will often tell you so a tip here is that many certificates that are from private institutions may not actually work for the express entry category, because those organizations typically like to work with public universities, accredited universities. So if your certificate is not from an accredited organization, you may not be able to work in certain categories. The other thing to bear in mind is that your higher education, your certificate from the high school, might also work in certain instances. There are people who only have high school certificates and they want to come to Canada. Their scores may be very low, but it does not mean that you cannot apply to come to Canada. Nothing stops you from coming to Canada, especially if you did the general certificate in education. At least that is verifiable. The problem is that if your certificate is not verifiable or not from an accredited organization, the problem is that the organizations that do the accreditation of credentials may not actually be able to work with you. That's the problem you may have. So you've got to be able to show that your certificate is verifiable. And like I always say to people, I always say that it's not, immigration to Canada falls in the category of what we call, it's part of Canada's sustainable development goals. I always say that. So one thing you can be sure of is that immigration is not going to end anytime soon. Immigration to Canada is not likely to end anytime soon. So if there is anything you need to still meet some qualifications, by all means go for it. If it takes you another 2 years, immigration will still be here. So if your certificate that you have now is from a private school, or like in Nigeria where I come from, the mechanic example that I gave, he learned a trade, they call it freedom when they graduate, but he probably learned as an apprentice under somebody else, and he knows his onions, he does what he needs to do. So for somebody like that, if he wants to come to Canada, my advice would be go and do it, go into a polytechnic and do a 2-year program at least related to mechanical engineering or something, and learn a trade, and then let's see if we can bring you to Canada. Or even if it's yeah, whatever you can show at an accredited institution to show that you learned something. So immigration will always be there. If you do not meet the qualifications now, find out what you need to be able to come to Canada and go for it. You still have time, 2 years, 3 years, go for a program, and then gain work experience while you are at it too, and then you can apply. Canada is not going to stop immigration. All the governments that we've had in Canada, the conservatives, and then right now we have the liberals in power, none of them is anti-immigration. They're all pro-immigration, although in different ways, but they're all pro-immigration. So no matter what government we have in place, immigration will always be here. So if you don't meet qualifications right now, go and get some education and work. If your work experience is still very short and your scores are low due to that, get some work experience and try again in another 2 years. If your certificate is from a private institution and it's not verifiable, go to a university or go to a polytechnic and get something that can be accredited so that you can make an application in the next 1 or 2 years. So I think that should answer your question, Amedika. So if there are any more general questions, Miss Owolabi, do you have any general questions? I'll check out your message on Instagram and get back to you. I'll check out your question as well, Mr. Adekoya, and get back to you. So basically, I'm just going to do, so that we can wrap up, the 2 dates to keep in mind. September 7, tourists can come into Canada once again. And then September 7, tourists can come into Canada once you are fully vaccinated and you have a test result showing that you are not COVID-19 positive. Then you can come into Canada starting from September 9th. If you are looking to apply for permanent residency in the express entry category, in the as a professional, as a skilled trades person, or as a business person, feel free to get in touch. It's open now as well. For study permits, like I said, look out for scholarships. It's gaining ground and a lot more people are having success with study permits. But make sure, like I said, make sure that there are no restrictions in the type of scholarship that you get, whether it's an international scholarship or scholarship from Canada. Make sure it's not a type of scholarship that requires that you have to go back home. So if you have one that wants to go and make use of your education back in your home country, by all means, go for such for that type of immigration scholarship. But if you are one that's looking to stay back and see how you can maybe gain some international work experience, or even stay back as a permanent resident, there's no crime in that, as long as you do it the proper way. If you're somebody like that, watch out for the type of scholarship that you accept. Not all scholarships permit you to stay back in Canada after you obtain the scholarship. So keep that in mind. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up. So like I said, I think we have 500 people joined us in the last week. That's why I decided to actually show my face. I'm camera shy, very camera shy, but I decided to show my face to welcome I think we have almost 400 or 500 people join us last week. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is me. I'm the owner of the business. And like I said, I'm originally from Nigeria. I'm Canadian now as well. And I can help you with all types of immigration matters that come your way. For those who have had refusals, feel free to work with a professional. A professional can guide you and look through the reasons why you were refused. Get in touch. We can help you with refusals. And also, we can help with all types of immigration to Canada. And if you just want to come on vacation to Canada, get in touch as well. If you are a refugee, there's a word I'm looking for. If you can prove that you are being persecuted where you are, especially those from Afghanistan right now, that's another thing that's new. I wanted to talk about something that's new. If you are from Afghanistan, the government of Canada has just opened up 20,000 spots for people looking to flee, because there's a conflict going on right now between the Taliban and Afghanistan. And I believe the government of Canada has opened up 20,000 spots for people from Afghanistan who are interested in moving out of harm's way. So I believe that there should be more information on the government of Canada's website. I'll try to post some. I don't know if I have anyone from Afghanistan here, but if I have anybody here from Afghanistan, look out for more information on that. There are 20,000 spots for refugees looking to come in right now, as there's owing to the conflict. And also sending prayers and thoughts to folks in Haiti. There was an earthquake in Haiti, I believe yesterday, 7.2 magnitude, I heard. It's so devastating. The country has had so much they've had to bear so much. They just lost their president or prime minister too, from what I have been seeing on the news. Sending prayers and thoughts their way. Sending prayers and thoughts the way of all Nigerians. A lot every day from Nigeria. Sending prayers and thoughts their way as well. And those of us here, may God keep protecting us. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to leave my details here. I don't think there are any more questions. Okay, someone just came with a question. Just a minute, I'm going to... Okay, on visitor visas, like I said, visitor visas, it depends on the country you're applying from. It's not the same across board. You have to check out for, first of all, the government of Canada has there's a way you can check it on the government of Canada website, depending on the country you're from. If you are from Nigeria, I think it takes between 4 to 6 months. But like I said, owing to the pandemic, it may take longer now. So it depends on what country you're applying from. It's not uniform across board for visitor visas. Even study permits, not uniform across board. So you have to bear that in mind, that the country you're applying from matters. And then the pandemic too may have affected things a little bit. So I'm going to round up here. I think it's a Sunday night. For folks outside Canada, I know you need to get to work tomorrow. I'm going to round up here. Thank you for joining us, those who just joined us last week. So this is me, Dayo. Stay in touch. I'll stay in touch as well. I'll leave my contact details here. And those that sent me messages, inbox, I'll respond to your messages as soon as possible. Thank you so much once again for joining me. I appreciate you all. Have a great week. Bye now.